Ja, da kan vi ønske velkommen tilbake til Kulturhuset her i Tromsø for nok en runde med Filmprat. Vi sitter her i dag med en ganske sånn fascinerende filmskaper-duo, og vi skal ta praten på engelsk. My name is Karsten Meinik, I'm the editor-in-chief of Mtages, and I'm here with two directors, a director couple. Alex Holdridge, welcome to Tromsø.
Thank you very much, tusen takk.
Og Linnea Saasen, velkommen til deg også. Du er norsk.
Jeg er norsk,
tusen takk. But we'll take this in English. So your film, Meet Me in Montenegro, it's part of this year's festival, and it's such a joy when, I think it's true about TIFF, that after a couple of those Kazakh family dramas, you might at some point just desire something a bit with a lighter touch. Yeah. And I found your film to be so charming and such a great journey to go onto, a romantic journey. But for our audience that might not have seen the film or know you or know the film at all, could you tell us just what the story is about and how this film came to be?
Yeah, sure. Do you want? Okay, I'll give it a shot. It's a romantic drama, and it's a very, very personal story, but it's light and kind of a globe-trotting romance, really. We made it together, we wrote it together, we directed it, and we spent 3.5 years literally working on it every day. And when you see it, you'll kind of understand why it took so long to make, and living out of a backpack and trying to make this film, and little by little. It's about a couple that meets, much like how we were at the time, which was I was working in Hollywood in Los Angeles, and Linnea was where she was thinking she was going off to art school in the Netherlands. And we met by chance in Berlin and hopped on a train together, and it was kind of a mad, intense romance, but your lives are going in totally different directions. And it just happened that our lives completely fell apart while we were both traveling together, and so we have no apartment, no money, everything we own is on our backs. And we thought, wow, that's a really funny place to start for characters in a film. And that began this idea. We rented a little apartment in Sarajevo, and we wrote what is now Meet Me Montenegro. We moved back to Berlin and spent these years making it. And so it's about a couple that meets in a similar type circumstance, and things go awry on these travels. And then they go back to their respective lives, and 3 years later, they run into one another. And so it takes place in Berlin, and we play this couple that is reconnecting, but also doesn't trust one another. And I'm staying at a friend's house, played by Rupert Friend, who's now on Homeland. Everyone knows him as Quinn on Homeland now. But he plays a great comedic character that I'm crashing at his place, and he's going through kind of the opposite, which is he's in a long-term relationship with this woman, Frederica. So he's a Brit living in Berlin, and they're dating, they love each other, but they're kind of hitting a wall in their relationship, and rather than making decisions, they focus on trying to go to a sex club together, and it's about their journey.
What you do in Berlin.
Yeah.
And for you, this Alex, you've made films before, and you were an established indie filmmaker at that point. But for you were probably
I've made films before. Yes.
Yeah, but for you, this was your first film.
Yes.
What did you feel when obviously there was a love story in real life as well, but how did you feel about venturing into filmmaking with this story?
Well, I think it was not a lot of thinking before. It was more about doing and then adapting as we go along. And it was obviously very intense because we started writing, and that's a very fun process. Doing the writing and then shooting is very, very intense because you have all deadlines and a lot of people, but it went really well. And then later on, when we got back to editing, I went on lynda.com and I learned how to edit, because this is a low-budget film and we have to do everything.
In the story itself, your character, the filmmaker, he struggles with the balance between Hollywood. Is it a superhero movie? I don't know, but it's some sort of project he's working on, meeting actors and sort of feeling it's not right. It's not, and the frustration of filmmaking is kind of a fascinating concept. Anyway, I mean, for all sort of projects, you'll hear stories. How did it come together? How did you manage? And I think the fact that this is a low-budget film also informs the visual language in a way. It creates its own sort of energy. How did you get this film made? Was it you were going to make it anyway, or were you relying on a lot of financial support, even though it's a low budget. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it was kind of chaotic and just full of like, let's get this done, you know? I had, like you know, I had made this film called In Search of Mtages. It got a lot of attention in the U.S., and I was able to get some work in Hollywood at the time, and I'd sold a script, and so, but I had been there, and I was beating my head against the wall, and I wasn't getting these movies made, and you're getting so close, and you're meeting with all of these people, but then things go awry, and I come from a world where you pick up a camera and you make it, you figure out you write your script, and then you just figure it out, you know? And if you know that you can't raise money, you write a concept that you know you can shoot for no money. Yeah. And, you know, and it goes both ways. When you're working with a lot of money, if you're working at a studio and you have, say, $7 million as a budget, you have to justify every single shot because it's not just you and your friends anymore, right? It's like we want to shoot this direction now, okay, but I'm not sure. I think we want to shoot that way. Oh my God, because now we have to move 20 trucks. Yeah. You know, all those people are you know, union truck guys, and it's going to cost us money. We don't have time. And when you're on a low budget like what we started, it was like it was a dancer and working in all of these creative aspects and really great artist, and all of her artwork is in the film. It was really a great collaboration because her energy, and she is really directly there. You're not so removed from the process like filmmaking, which oftentimes takes years and years and years before you're actually executing it, and you're keeping that energy alive is hard. Yeah. And so all of that went hand in hand with us kind of diving into it and beginning and then working together to get it done. What it opens up, we knew that we had these cameras that, you know, these little DSLRs, yeah. But kind of like, as opposed to saying like the aesthetic of, you know, it's not that at all. Like I've never been into that, like no way. Like I love movies and we watch a lot of movies, we talk about movies, we debate them, and it was like, if we're going to do this, and really we tried this with Mtages too, but this time we're like, okay, if we have the ability to do this, we don't have somebody looking over our shoulder with a whole lot of money, and then we can go to the cliffs of Montenegro and say, we're going to shoot a scene on the cliffs, and we have to walk out there, you know, with all this equipment and shoot it, and actually, okay, and then we're going to shoot in the dead of winter in Berlin. Okay, we're going to wait till snow starts for this scene. We're going to you can do these things.
It's so lovely in your film that seasons change, haircuts change, like in real life, like because in movies so it's over. They were just shooting at autumn, and then if there is another year, then it's inside or it's fake. But here you really feel the breath of the movie, like it has its own sort of pulse. And you talked about learning about editing during the process, but it's not only about the style and the visuals, but it's also about the sort of biographical aspect of it. It feels very much like a story about you guys.
Well, it incorporated because we traveled all over. So we were traveling all through the former Yugoslavia, and a lot of those pictures became elements in the film. And
it did take 3 years to finish it. We shot the last scene in May this year. Yeah. The last scene. So and we have some small pickups, but it has taken a long time, and it's not like we didn't shoot it for 3 weeks. We did shoot it in chunks over you know, a long time, and that you can really feel it, like the texture, and
but what was it also like to be personal, like that personal in telling the story? I mean, I think it's contagious to the audience. It feels real, but it must have been pretty close to home.
Yeah, it is kind of terrifying because as a filmmaker, you are very vulnerable in itself because it's your work and you can't blame it on anyone else. When you put yourself and kind of your personal story out there too, it's even more scary.
Personal in the second degree.
Yeah, so you pray to God that people are not going to hate you.
That's the thing. It's like whenever you make any kind of thing, it doesn't even matter. Even in the best case scenarios, there's just you have to take a lot of criticism. So when you're being personal about it, it's like you have to just have a thick skin and just be like, well, it is what it is. I'm a human, and this is our experience and what we think is a good story, our best chance at telling it, and
If Ingmar Bergman and Liv Ullmann could do it, anyone can do it, right?
Exactly.
Right?
But it does expose you in funny ways, because there is fiction in the film quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like as we were talking about this issue coming here with Linnea's mom, and she's like, there used to be a scene in there long ago, she saw a rough cut where we take ecstasy, and she's like, but make sure to tell them that part was fiction. That's not even in the movie now, so don't worry.
To make sure there is borders between, But and the fiction elements is also, I think, woven in a way that does not separate it. But it's clearly this other couple feels to me as a very written part of it. But I mean that in a good way. Like if it was only a film about the two of you, it could be not necessarily boring, but there's an element of narcissism that always, it might be good, but if it's too much of it. So they become sort of the allegorical couple that mirrors what you guys are going through. Could you tell me a little bit about the writing process? How did you shape that those two characters and how they were balanced?
Well, first of all, like when we started writing, we had a lot of different storylines. We had 5-6 different storylines that we wanted to make into one movie. And when we wrote it all out, we kind of understood that with our budget, this would never be possible. So we started to focusing on the two storylines, like our storyline and the other couple's storyline. And we wanted, as you said, a storyline that would be kind of the opposite or contrast our storyline. This is a couple that have been together for a long time and having trouble finding, their path, if it's together or if they're gonna take separate ways. They don't know. So it's and then our couple is, coming together and have that, excitement of something new.
And how was it for those two actors to join in on your project? Did you have to shoot that part with them just one time, or would they come back every year? And I'd love that.
They have a spare room, and
now after Boyhood, I'm sure people would be open for that. Yeah, can we do one sort of project like that?
We shot it in 3 weeks. We shot their story all out. So.
But it wasn't like, I just emailed Rupert right before we got here, like, hey, here's a picture from Tromsø. It was beautiful because he's really great and funny in it, and it was really fun for us to watch the audience respond to him because, especially once over these few years now, people have gotten to know him as Quinn, like a serious guy on that, and so it's nice to see him because in real life I had met him and he's really, really funny in real life, and so it was like, oh God, once we wrote this, like, oh, well, let's send it to Rupert because he would be great in a comedy or to be a light part.
Because at that point he'd done mostly just period pieces.
Pride and Prejudice, we all remember him.
And people know him from that, so it was kind of would be nice to see him in something modern.
I do actually live in present time. He'd probably want to make sure everyone knows.
He's really quick and smart. And he was like, for both those actors, Jennifer Ulrich, who is plays the German, his girlfriend in the movie. She's great, and she's an established actress in Germany, and they're both totally unpretentious. And
I guess they must have been to fit into this universe also, because you
sleeping.
guys are so natural. I forget about you being... You are actors in this film, but it feels like you're nailing the role by just being yourself, right? Am I right?
Yeah, we have a lot of practice. But you have to be willing as an actor to jump into a small budget film where you're like... You don't get the pampering, right? So Rupert is living in the room where we're shooting. Like that's we can't afford to have another apartment for you to stay in while this is our shooting set. It's like, this is our shooting place and that's your bed. And he's like, great. Yeah. Carrying equipment, helping us set up lights. Like it's not every actor is so willing to give their time and energy. And, it's a lot of credit to those, certainly for those two, for jumping in and being completely without, any pretensions and just being like, let's do it and hope for the best.
That's really great, and it must be also very necessary to make sure a film like this can become what it needs to become. That you mentioned, like it might be good to have a bigger budget, but it also creates another atmosphere. And if you have a bigger actor, it might create that same sort of atmosphere.
For our parts, because I think. Naturally, we'd be like, oh, that's great. Let's get other actors to play this. But we could never afford to pay actors to be on call for 3 years, and okay, we're going to Montenegro. We're going to stay in this apartment for 4 months, and we're going to wait till the rain stops to shoot this.
Yeah, sure.
And,
And you don't want to
yeah.
give that cool experience away to someone
Yeah,
else.
that's
either.
true. But so we did tests with ourselves, and we're like, could we pull it off? And then we said, okay, let's do it.
Also, I have to ask. I mean, there's such a strangeness to the portrait of LA and agents and all that stuff. Watching it from afar, watching it in movies, and also hearing about it. Is it like that? Is it like suddenly you have to take a meeting with Amy Adams? Did that happen?
I have met with Amy Adams, but it was, you know, it wasn't like
She
I
would have
bailed
been
on her.
great in
She
this,
would have
huh?
been. She would have been great. God, if she would only have done it. No, but that is my real agent in real life. He's a major, fantastic agent in Los Angeles. I was at CAA. Now we're at William Morris. So he's like, that's my manager's real office. Like all that stuff is real. It may seem like complete fantasy. Of course, I'm totally loyal to Stuart. This guy.
He wouldn't call to.
We don't want to give away stuff that happens in the movie, but we
Just leave that open, no?
We're exaggerating the
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
But you know,
So he's game.
he's game.
Yeah,
Like how?
yeah.
Yeah, he's a Fulbright scholar. Like he's not just like you know what you would think of as a typical agent. So he's willing to kind of take the piss out of himself and our relationship and make fun of it all.
Spike Jonze's adaptation. There's an agent there, and that's always been the image for me. Like Ron Livingston doing the.
Oh yeah,
The
I
role as the
would
agent.
quote it, but I would be. But Linnea's
Yeah,
mom is
we
here.
can't quote it. So it's a wonderful film. I just have to say that, and I think the audience here will really appreciate it. Not only as counter programming, like I mentioned before, but it gives that kind of effect that you want from cinema. That it opens up, takes you on a journey, and it doesn't feel artificial at all. I must say, congratulate you with that. You had your world premiere in Toronto. How has it been to finally let the film sort of go, like a child learning to walk?
It's like I would imagine with a child, it's terrifying and also very necessary and exciting, and to see, especially when you get feedback from people, because we've been for so long just ourselves in our little apartment and seeing ourselves and kind of grow sick, and then it's really refreshing and wonderful to show it to an audience that responds like you do, which is like it's why we're doing it. And it's been fantastic.
And to bring it to Norway, or
Yeah.
your home country.
Yeah, to bring it into the northern Norway where I'm from, it's special, and I love the atmosphere, and I love the audience here. And
How was the first screening? Was it yesterday, right?
yesterday,
Yeah.
it was great. It was full house and wonderful audience. It was just perfect.
You see, the Tromsø International Film Festival has a kind of mythic reputation in Norway that there's hardly an empty seat at any kind of movie, and all the filmmakers here tend to react like that. That's such a great thing to present the work here. What will be the way forward for this film? Will it be? Tell us a little bit about the plans.
Well, we have a distribution deal in the U.S., so we'll have a limited release in the U.S. and Canada in spring.
Yep.
So hopefully in May. That's the plan for now. We don't know. We don't know yet. It's discussions. Nothing's. But it's going to come out in the U.S. for sure. And then we're going to take it out to festivals in Europe and hopefully rest of the world as well.
Yeah.
For sure, rest of the world.
Yeah, so the company
Jump in.
The company that bought us is called The Orchard in the U.S. So
Yep.
it comes out in cinemas, which is really exciting for us because you can get a deal. And a lot of times, you know, if you have an art house type of film in the U.S., the distribution has changed so much. You don't know if that's how it's going to be received and whether you sell. So there's a lot of stress the first time you show it at a place like Toronto.
Yeah.
And so we lucked out. We got this insanely great company to get behind the film. So we're talking with them about timing. And like Linnea said, now we're just starting to take it here. So we really would love for it to come out in Scandinavia. So this whole time editing together, we've been talking like, man, we want to play Tromsø. We want to play Tromsø.
Yeah.
So now we're finally here. And
So you were thinking and hoping about Tromsø to screen it,
for a long time, like Montenegro 3 years ago, we're talking about maybe someday we'll finish and be able to play Tromsø.
No, we also had another filmmaker here, a Norwegian documentary filmmaker, Aslaug Holm, and she presented her documentary Brothers. She's been shooting it, portraying her children's childhood for 8 or 9 years, talking about boyhood. And she was so relieved also. She has had premieres here before. She finished the film the night before the premiere, and And film festivals can give you that feeling, and it's the moment when the film sort of comes alive, no?
Yeah, and like Linnea said, like, you know, Linnea became the main editor on the film, and she learned, and she was just starting to do rough cuts off to the side, and then it was like, well, that's really good, and in no time, then all of a sudden we edited the whole thing together. We had people come in at times, but it's and contributing and making the movie better and better and better.
Yeah.
But we're the ones living in a little with the hard drive sitting there, and any other filmmaker who watches this knows that, you know, they're staring you in the face, these hard drives with all that footage, and you're just like, oh God, how are we going to get this?
Yeah, but you got there, and now it's here. There's one last screening of this film, Meet Me in Montenegro, tomorrow, here in Kulturhuset, I think. Yeah. So we just encourage all of the TIFF audience members to seek out this little gem. It's a romantic break from all the horrors of the world, and I think that's really useful also. Thank you for coming here and sitting down with us to have this little chat. Looking forward to your next projects. Yes. Who knows? What's next? Do you have something new going on?
Well, we're both writing together two new things. So we're working on a television series that would take place in Berlin right after the war. And we are writing a new script that will be, we don't want to talk about it yet, but it's very exciting.
Sounds great. Yeah. I'm sure Tromsø will be waiting for the next time also. Thank you again, and have a great time at the festival.
Thank you.
Vi tilbake I morgen med siste filmprat fra årets utgave. Takk for at dere ser på og følger med. Ha det bra.
Takk.